What's up everyone? Drea here with another video, and this time I am bringing you my full review of the Honor View 10. I've been using this phone for a couple weeks now and here to give you my impressions of it, what I like, what I don't like, and to see if this is perhaps the new flagship killer. So let's go ahead and get started. I always like to start my reviews talking about the design and build quality, and the build quality of the View 10 is really solid. It's got metal along the sides and the back, and then glass over in the front. And this really makes it feel like a premium device. They're not using any cheaper materials, and it just feels really great in the hand. Design-wise, I am really liking this blue color that's available. Personally, I've never been a fan of all black phones. They're just a little bit boring to me. So I am happy to see that they have the blue option available. Other than that, the design of the phone is pretty stale to me. We've seen it before in other phones. It's very reminiscent of something like an iPhone 7 with the antenna lines on the top and at the bottom. So it's just a very basic design. It's not going to turn any heads, that's for sure. But if simplicity is, what you're about, then you'll really like this phone. But yeah, it does feel really good. I really like the slimmer form factor going on here. It's got that 6-inch 18:9 aspect ratio. So it's really easy to hold and feels great in the hand. With the display, you are getting a 1080p LCD screen, which I think works really great. It looks really beautiful on this phone. The colors really pop here, and you get great viewing angles. The screens do get nice and bright, so even if you're outside in the sunlight, you get great visibility. I know a lot of people prefer AMOLED screens, but for me, I really enjoy LCD as well. And 1080p, again, it still looks great here. I don't necessarily need to have QHD on every phone, and especially if this is a, cost-saving feature, then yeah, 1080p definitely gets the job done. And like I said, the colors just look really great and vibrant. I'm not really missing out on anything here. And you do have the option in your settings to change the color temperature on here. If you go into your display settings, you can change the screen resolution. You could keep it at 1080p or lower it to 720p. And you can change the color mode and temperature as well here. You can have it, I have it on the vivid setting, or you have normal setting, and you can change it if you prefer a warmer temperature or a colder temperature. I pretty much keep it on the default setting because I think that's what looks best. But at least you do get that option to personalize it more to your preferences with the screen. The software experience on here has actually been a bit of a surprise for me. Now this is running Huawei's EMUI 8.0 on top of Android 8.0. And the reason why I say it was a surprise is because I've seen some negative reviews on EMUI, and this is the first device that I've really used that has Huawei's home launcher on here. The only Huawei phone I've ever owned is the Nexus 6P, but of course that was a Nexus phone, so it was running stock Android. So this Honor View 10, which everybody knows Honor is a sub-brand of Huawei, is the first phone where I've really got to test out EMUI. And, because of the negative reviews I've seen, I sort of expected to hate it myself and thought that I would be switching my launchers to maybe Nova Launcher. But I really haven't had any need to do that. It does work really well. It's fast, and it's smooth. The one thing I did do was change the home screen style and made sure it included the app drawer. Of course, it does come out the box without the app drawer as the default setting. And I always hate that. I hate having all of my apps on the home screen. So I much prefer the app drawer style. And I'm really happy that they included that option for you to choose which one you prefer. Because if it didn't, then I probably would have switched to Nova Launcher. But yeah, it works really well. If I did have a complaint about the software experience, it would be that the settings do get a little bit tricky and maybe harder to navigate than some other phones that I've used. For example, it took me a while to figure out the navigation settings. You can change the navigation bar to include home screen buttons, or you can do all your navigation from the fingerprint sensor, which is basically how I've been doing it. And it took me a while to figure out how to change that. So it's pretty basically hidden in your system settings. And then you go to system navigation, and that's where you have that option. So you see that you have 4 different options here. You could use the navigation dock. You can have here where you have the on-screen buttons that most people are accustomed to on most devices. This one includes, you have that little bar that comes up. I don't really use that option. But yeah, my favorite one has been this off-screen navigation button where you can control the navigation from your fingerprint sensor. And I've been really surprised at how easy it was for me to pick this up, because I'm used to either having capacitive keys or the navigation bar at the bottom. But this actually works really well. You know, you just hit the fingerprint sensor once to go back, or hold it to go home, or slide across it to pull up all your recent apps. And I really like this because it makes it easier to use with one hand. You know, I have pretty small hands and a really short thumb, so even with capacitive keys, it's really hard for me to stretch to the other side of the phone. So this way makes it a lot easier for me to control everything just from the center fingerprint sensor. So this has probably been my favorite feature of this phone, is the ability to change the navigation style to using it this way. Speaking of the fingerprint sensor, this one works really well on this device. It's really fast and really accurate. I barely have any miscues at all with this phone. I do generally prefer rear mounted fingerprint sensors because my finger just naturally goes there. But this one just works really, really fast, so I'm really liking it. There's also face unlock on this phone that works great. The only time it really doesn't work is in the dark. If you're in a very low light situation, that's when the Face ID may not work. But this one is just really fast. Like if I just tilt the phone up towards my face, it unlocks really quickly. So it really picks it up really well in all situations, whether I'm wearing my glasses or my contacts. If I even have sunglasses on, it works. So it's good at picking up your face. And it's one of the fastest that I've seen in terms of the Face ID. So I really enjoy that they have that feature on here. Again, a feature that's found on a phone that's about half the price as other flagships out these days, and it's got that feature on there. And it works really well. It works really well. So no complaints there. The camera setup of this phone is really interesting. Over in the back, you do have the dual camera setup with a main 16 megapixel RGB camera at f1.8 aperture, and then a secondary 20 megapixel monochrome camera also at an f1.8 aperture. And then over in the front, you do have a 13 megapixel front-facing camera. Now the camera here is really interesting because this does include Huawei's AI. So usually when you take a picture, and I've nothing really to sample it on right now, but depending on what your subject matter is, if it's a person, if it's food, if it's a plant, you do get a little icon at the bottom that will appear when it identifies your subject. And then it just automatically changes your camera settings so that you can take the best possible picture of that subject. And that's in your standard automatic mode. Of course, you do also have a pro mode as well, where you can go ahead and control the settings yourself. There's also a portrait mode on here, and you can get some great bokeh effects going on. And this camera is just packed with features, more so than most other cameras that I've seen. The videos, again, the video can take up to 4K video. You have the option for slow motion. And then, yeah, a ton of different settings here for the camera, a lot of which I haven't really used, to be quite honest, because it's just packed so heavily. One feature that I do like is artist mode. And in this mode, you can change it to different filters here that gives it different quality. You could make it look like you're, you know, drawing a comic book, for example. Like this is just some samples I did. So depending on what setting you choose, and it gives everything like a kind of cartoony comic book look, depending on which one you choose. There's a ton of options here. So this is just really fun. If you like to have fun while you're taking photos, this is definitely a good camera, good phone to get to be able to do that. The overall camera quality has been pretty good, especially considering the price of this phone. Now, you may not get as sharp photos as you would get on something like the Mate 10 Pro. That is one of the differences between the Mate 10 Pro and the Honor View 10, is that the Huawei has the Leica cameras, whereas this one does not. But overall, I've been really impressed with the quality of photos. And as always, I do have some samples to show you, so check them out and let me know what you think about those in the comments. So those were just some sample shots that I took, and overall I am pleased with the quality of photos that come from this phone. I think the area where it does struggle a bit is in low light situations. Taking nighttime shots is pretty difficult, and you do get a bit of noise going on in the background. So that is an area where it does struggle. Also, the front-facing camera, I'm really not very impressed with. It doesn't get as much detail as other phones that I've used. So that's probably my least favorite thing about this phone, is the front-facing camera. I think they definitely could have done better in that department. But yeah, let me know what you think about those, the photo quality from this phone. Let me know what you think in the comments. Another area that is a little bit lacking for me is in the audio department. This phone does come with a single bottom firing speaker, which is okay. It's definitely not the worst audio I've heard on a phone, but it's certainly not the best either. You know, it's just okay. It's passable. You know, I prefer a dual audio setup. If they put speaker on the top piece here as well as the bottom, that would have been better and would have provided a richer sound. So this one is just pretty much mediocre audio. Gets you through a few YouTube videos, but you're definitely not going to be jamming your music out to it. Putting in the headphone, it does have a headphone jack, which is good to see. The headphones sound pretty good. You get nice audio coming out of there. Again, nothing that really blows you away compared to other phones, but it gets the job done. So yeah, that's about it with the audio. The battery life on here has also been really solid. It does come with a 3,750 milliamp hour battery, so definitely large enough to get you through a full day of use. I charge it maybe about every 26 hours or so, and I always plug it in maybe at around 20% battery. So yeah, it's definitely can get you through a full day where you don't have to feel like you have to constantly walk around with your charging cable. I do find that I get better battery off of my OnePlus 5T, despite the fact that the View 10 has a larger battery. So it's definitely not the best battery that I have seen, but again, it still gets me through a full day of use. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say on it. Just some closing thoughts here on this phone. I am really impressed overall with this device. It costs $499. You do get 128 gigabytes of storage and 6 gigabytes of RAM here. And for me, this phone is major competition for a phone like the OnePlus 5T. If you're looking for a great phone with flagship specs, but not at those ridiculous prices, I mean, this is definitely a phone to consider. Also, bear in mind that this comes with the same Kirin 970 processor that is found on the more expensive Huawei Mate 10 Pro, and also on the new Huawei P20. Again, it's the same Kirin 970, but except with this one, the Honor View 10, you're paying a much lower price here. Again, $499. The Huawei Mate 10 Pro came out at $800, and the P20, I believe, is in the $1,000 price range. And this is still using the same processor. So you're getting flagship specs at a much lower price here. So I think this is definitely a phone to consider. And I will be putting this head to head with my OnePlus 5T coming up in the near future. So be on the lookout for that. But yeah, just overall, it's a great device. The only things you're probably lacking on this phone is, of course, wireless charging. This is a metal device, so no wireless charging. And you're also missing some kind of water resistance. But other than that, I think it's just phenomenal. And again, just proves the point that you don't have to shell out tons of money for a great phone. But that's my overall thoughts on it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you like it, don't like it, would you consider getting one? Let me know. I would love to hear your thoughts. And of course, I will see you in the next video.